Story time of how I found out that my mom was actually my older sister. My older sister never really liked me as a child. We were never close. I never knew why, but I was guessing it was because of the 10-year age gap. But I'm pretty sure she hated me because she couldn't even look me in the eye. I cannot make this up. She would not look me in the eye. But she never really talked to my parents either. She kind of just kept to herself all the time. Sometimes I have vivid memories of when we were younger and she would always be arguing with my parents about something, and I always thought it had something to do with me. Well, I was right. It had everything to do with me because eventually my sister turned 18 and she moved out. For 2 years, I didn't talk to her at all. I honestly don't even think I had her number saved, and I'm pretty sure that she didn't have mine. Well, 2 years later, and I was 10 at the time, she reached out to me via social media. I'm not sure how she found my Instagram name, but it was just my name, so she probably just typed that in and found me. She DM'd me and told me that she wanted to talk about something very important and that she would like to talk over the phone. So we exchanged numbers and we called that same night. And she told me that when she was younger, my dad had taken advantage of her and gotten her pregnant and had me. This is part 2 of how I found out that my mom was actually my older sister. So like I said, my older sister had reached out to me via social media and told me that she was actually my mother. And so after we got off the phone that same night, I lost it at dinner and I went off on my parents and I screamed at them. And I told them that I would go to the police and tell them everything, and I would tell them the truth unless they just let me live with my older sister. And they tried to explain themselves, and their reasoning was that they wanted to keep the family together because of their traditional values, and it would have just made their lives a lot harder going through all the court proceedings, so they just kept the family together. And so they clearly didn't want me to go into the police, so they said that I could go live with my older sister. So she came to get me, but she lived in a different state, so it kind of took a while. I still had to stay in the house for like a week or so before she came, but I packed all my stuff and I was ready to go. And when we went back to where she lived, we immediately called the police and told them everything. Fast forward a little bit, they did some DNA testing. My sister's DNA matched as my biological mother's, and then my dad was my biological father, and they saw how the ages just didn't match properly, so they took my father to jail.
Am I wrong for telling my sister that she should have gone to college if she wanted a life like mine? My sister and I are twins, 33 female. We come from a culture where arranged marriages are an option. Mostly they are blind dates set by a matchmaker. And if you are compatible, you marry. When we both graduated high school, my sister, who by the way was valedictorian, chose not to attend college. She asked for an arranged marriage since all she wanted to be was a wife and a mother. Nothing wrong with that. My parents, who are a love match, tried to convince her to at least get her bachelor's. She refused. I, on the other hand, started attending an engineering college. I studied computer engineering. A year later, she married a man that she met through the matchmaker. He's a very nice guy, a teacher, and treats my sister like a queen. The thing is, he was just a freshly hired teacher. My sister went from living in a double-income house with parents both being high earners, a doctor and a lawyer, to a single-income house on a teacher's salary. I graduated at 23, started working as a cybersecurity personnel for a big bank. After 2 years of dating around, I too asked for an arranged marriage. My husband is a business owner, real estate developer, and he makes a lot more than I do. He also comes from money. My sister didn't like him from the get-go. She even threw a tantrum, thankfully in private, at my wedding. Apparently, the bride gifts he brought were tacky. More like very expensive, more than what her husband could get her. The problem is that my first child is now at the age where she'll be starting preschool. We signed her for a private school. The monthly tuition is more than what her husband makes a year. When she heard this, she just exploded. She was ranting about how it's not fair that our kids will not have equal opportunities. How the only reason I could live like I do was that my parents chose a better husband for me. I became angry for how she treats me, how unfair she was to her husband and my parents. I told her I got matched with a better husband because I am a college-educated woman with a respectable job, and that wealthy men using matchmakers don't want 19-year-old high school graduates. Their standards are higher. I told her that her husband is a wonderful man who loves her, but if all she wanted was a wealthy man, she should have gone to college. Now she has no contact with me and says I'm an elitist asshole. So am I wrong here? Am I wrong for calling my brother's girlfriend disgusting and refusing to meet her? I, 27 female, recently had a very unpleasant encounter with my brother's 32 male new girlfriend, 21 female, that has culminated in the family getting dragged into it. We'll call her Anne. He's been with Anne for about 5 months, but I've never met her for various reasons from both of our ends. He said he wanted to get to know her properly before introducing her to us all. And I made a crack along the lines of, yeah, well, 12-year-olds are known to be unpredictable, which made him sulk for a while too. I probably shouldn't have said that, but the age gap is weird to me. I met up with him a few weeks ago for coffee. The topic of Anne came up briefly, but he just said that they are still together and he liked her, so I was coming around to the idea that I maybe should stop being a judgmental asshole and just meet her. After, I went back to my car, grabbed my plastic bags, and went shopping in town. After about an hour, I came back to my car and it was messed up. It had been scratched, a drink thrown over it, but the worst thing was that someone had smeared blood on my driver door and literally shoved a used feminine hygiene product in the door handle. I had to go back to the store and buy rubber gloves and bleach just to get back into my car. I get home and I get a text from my brother. He said Anne had confronted him when he got home over his cheating and she thought I was the other woman and had vandalized my car. He said she was really upset and wanted to apologize to me in person and give me flowers. I said that even if I had been some other woman, that what she did was disgusting and she was nuts. I never wanted to meet her and I expected payment for cleaning and damages. For the last 2 weeks, it's been this revolting door of my family calling me and telling me to let her apologize. Me letting them know exactly what she did and them mostly agreeing with me in the end. Then I get messages from my brother telling me to stop telling people what happened because it was embarrassing Anne. I had some aunts who are mad at me for even telling them. Make it make sense. And her family are of course livid with me, not to mention my brother. It's just so much noise in my head that I'm starting to think I should just drop it because I have repaired the damage and had it cleaned. I've sent my brother the bill but not had anything from him yet because he says I've done emotional damage to Anne. Bro, honest to God, I swear, I would have called the cops. I'm petty like that. I would have pressed charges and be like, yo, this person vandalized my car. And you have proof, like the text message proof that, or the call that she vandalized your car. You're too nice. I don't care if my brother or not. I would be like, this bitch is crazy. I think it was emotionally damaging to have to see what she did to my car, but in the off chance that I've gone mad and I am overreacting, please tell me. So, am I the asshole for calling my brother's girlfriend disgusting and never wanting to meet her because of what she did to my car?
This story time is how I found out my toxic ex-best friend pretended to be a guy so she could date me. In other words, I was catfish. So back in February when the coronavirus first started out, everyone had to stay home. My best friend at the time, which we're calling Tina, older brother had caught the virus, and I felt bad for the family because they could also be infected. Me, on the other hand, I live with my older sister who recently had my niece and my 2 grandparents. I told Tina the only way we'd be able to talk was through phone and call and text messages because I was afraid that she would infect me and I would infect my family. As weeks go by, she tells me that she misses me, and of course I miss her also. At one point, she starts to get jealous because I start texting other people, and from there, I started to distance myself, but not purposely. One day, I get a DM from this really cute guy, which we're calling Bryson. He came up with a corny line, but I thought it was cute. He was really nice, and we talked as though we knew each other for years. As the number of cases of coronavirus go down, I tell him we should go on a date. Guys, this is when it gets weird. This is part 2 of how I found out my toxic ex-best friend pretended to be a guy so she could date me. So after we talked for about 4 months, I tell him that we should go out and finally meet face to face. He's like, I don't know yet. If I go somewhere, I like to take you somewhere really nice, so I might have to save up. I was like, we don't need to do anything fancy. I just want to finally meet you. He's like, I need more time. So I was patient and waited a whole month. I told him, let's meet. He's like, I'm not ready yet. And I said, if we don't go out this weekend, then I'm done talking to you. So he finally agreed to go to the movie theater with me. When we finally meet, I was so surprised because he was short. I expected him to be taller by now. His pictures looked like he was taller. He had a black hoodie on and his face was partially covered up. I was like, are you good? His voice was raspy. He says he lost his voice. When the movie was over, we got up and left the theater. When it was time to leave, we gave hugs and he kissed me. As he's hugging me, I feel breaths. It gets really weird after this. Part 3 will be up soon. This is part 3 of how I found out my toxic best friend pretended to be a guy so she could date me. So after the movie was over, we stepped outside and I said goodbye. He hugs and kisses me and I immediately feel breasts. I'm like, what the? And it pushes him away and his hoodie flew off. Well, her hoodie flew off. I found out that this guy was my best friend, Tina. I'm like, what the hell, Tina? Why are you here? She's like, I'm so sorry. I asked her again, why are you here? She then explains to me that she pretended to be the guy I was talking to because she wanted to get closer to me. I was freaked out because I thought I was talking to someone else this whole time for 5 months. I got so wrapped up over this guy that didn't even exist and told things to that I never told anyone. But then I got so disgusted because I couldn't believe my own best friend would do that. And I feel like if we never met, I probably would still be talking to this fake man. At the end, I completely blocked her and stopped being her friend.